Hi, I'm going to tell you about two of my favourite things, my Doc Marten boots. Now the Doc Marten has incredibly iconic value in England. In the 1960s they were the boot used by builders and postmen and the like. Then towards the end of the 60s they became more associated with mods and skinhead culture. Later, of course, they then transcended once again, and now it's a kind of a post-punk grunge kind of boot. What's very distinctive about the boot, of course, is the high back and the soles. Mine, as you see, have been re-heeled one time already, because I actually wear them a lot. We can see that there is some very distinctive yellow stitching that goes around the upper sole, and also at the back here we have a very special label. On one side it says airwear in rather strange spelling, and on the other side it says with soles bouncing. I would actually prefer it to say with bouncing soles, but perhaps that's just the pedant in me. The whole label and everything, it kind of hints towards delinquency and rebellion and so on. However, if the truth be told, probably the word order and everything comes down to a bad translation from German, because the Doc Marten boot actually is German in origin, and unsurprisingly it was invented by a guy called Dr. Martens. Now, he was a doctor in the German army in the Second World War, and the story goes that in 1945 he was on a skiing holiday in the Bavarian Alps when he had a bit of an accident, and he couldn't put his army boots back on. So what he did was invent a new kind of boot with a softer sole and a lighter upper part to the boot. For me, the most surprising part of the whole story is that how the hell did a German officer have time to have a holiday in 1945? I would have thought they would have had other priorities at the time. Well, this pair of boots I have here, they're actually only the second pair I've ever owned. I bought these in Portsmouth from an outlet store. The first pair I ever had was way back in the 70s, or end of the 70s, and they were a traditional oxblood, kind of red colour. I managed to get these boots, and the first time I had them, we were going to go, or me and a friend were going to go to a disco in the local town. And discos at that time, they were run by the church. There was no alcohol or anything, and it was like from 6:30 till 9 o'clock in the evening. So I went to this church disco, first time out in my new boots, you know, really trying to be cool. And I remember sitting around, yeah, there were chairs there, and I remember sitting, you know, something like that, you know, and trying to look all cool, like, you know, and whenever anybody walked by, I'd be trying to get them to look at the boots. Well, after about an hour, this guy came up to me. I'd never seen him before in my life, a Weasley looking guy. And he looked me straight in the eye and he said, "You ain't tough enough to wear Docs." Well, what could I do, you know? That was not the idea to get into a fight. I thought I was untouchable, wearing Docs and all that. So I thought, shall I apologise to him, you know? First reaction, like, oh, I'm really sorry, it was a mistake, I'll take him back to the shop the next day. But then I noticed I had a bit of an audience there, you know, and people were waiting to see how I would respond. And I realised that an apology wouldn't pull it off, you know, I was going to get beaten up. So I thought the only thing I could do was to wing it, and if I was going to go down, then at least I'd go down in flames. So I looked him straight in the eye, and I used the toughest voice I could, and I said to him, "And what the fuck are you going to do about it?" Well, you know, the amazing thing is it actually worked, you know, and I discovered something. He started to back off, he was walking away. And that's the first time in my life I understood what power dressing is about. Doc Martens had a certain power, and they gave you a certain confidence and a certain credibility. So, I was kind of like really happy about that. However, he did do one thing. Just as he left, he finally turned around and he gave me a piece of advice which I've always remembered. Admittedly, he did give it in a very sneering kind of way, and he said to me, "If you're gonna wear Docs, at least do up the laces right." And I realised then that I'd done the laces up all wrong. I hadn't known that you're supposed to like do straight lines all the way, and I'd done crosses. So anyway, that night I relaced the boot, and because of that guy at that church disco 40 years ago, I have always been doing my laces up in another way now. And the only modification I've done to that is that I now use an extra long lace. So these don't come standard with the boot. Because I never actually got used to that idea of just using one end of the lace and wrapping it around the boot, which you're supposed to. I make a double knot, and so it is, you know. I'm quite pleased to wear Docs today to remember my heritage. That's me and my story about Doc Martens. I hope you enjoyed it. I'm going to use my air soles and bounce on out of here. Take care.